Well, hello there. I'm Lance, and welcome to Dozing Off. Dozing Off is a podcast where I'm going to read you to sleep. I'll narrate short stories and classic literature in this deep and relaxing tone to allow you to put your overactive mind at ease and doze off. I'm back. I missed you, and I hope you missed me. And to come back, I have a pretty comical, fun story. I know there's some people who like to just listen to these stories and listen to me narrate them. And I think you'll like the message in this one. I know I need it, and I have a feeling that you probably do too. Thank you for being here tonight. If you do enjoy the show, leave a review, leave a rating. I love being able to hear and connect with you all. Thank you again. Fluff up that pillow. Pull that comforter up a little bit. Close your eyes. Here we go. A whole lot of nothing. This town, and we'll call it Belmere, was known for two things. The first was absolutely nothing. And the second was how proud everyone seemed to be of that first thing. If you asked anyone passing through what Belmere had to offer, they'd usually pause for a while, stare thoughtfully into the distance, and eventually say something like, "Well, it's peaceful." Which was another way of saying nothing had happened there since around 1987. No famous landmarks, no festivals, no haunted inns, no world records. Not even a suspiciously large ball of yarn. Belmere had one grocery store, one gas station, one barber shop, and a dinner called Ruth's that closed every day at about 2:07 p.m. for reasons nobody understood. And somewhere in the middle of all this lived a man named Walter Pine. Walter was 58 years old, mildly tired at all times, and the sort of person who could stand perfectly still for so long that birds occasionally considered landing on him. He lived in a little yellow house near the edge of town, with a crooked mailbox and a porch swing that squeaked like an old screen door every time he sat down. Which was often. Walter, similar to myself, enjoyed simple things. Warm coffee, cold mornings, long silences. Toast with too much butter. Watching weather forecasts from counties he didn't even live in. And perhaps, most of all, doing absolutely nothing. I wouldn't consider this laziness, exactly. Walter simply believed the world was in too much of a hurry. Everyone was always optimizing something. Morning routines, productivity systems, ice baths, protein powders, standing desks. Walter once overheard a young man in the grocery store say, "If you're not maximizing your mornings, you're losing at life." Walter had thought about that sentence for 3 entire days. Afterward, while sitting on his porch watching a squirrel unsuccessfully attempt to carry a pear. And eventually, he came to the conclusion that the squirrel seemed happier than the young man. So, Walter continued on exactly as he was. Every morning, he woke up at 6:12 a.m. without an alarm. He shuffled into the kitchen in his slippers. He boiled water in an old kettle that whistled like it was personally offended. He made coffee slowly, very slowly, painfully slowly, according to his niece Sierra, who once timed the process and claimed she had aged emotionally before he finished pouring. Walter drank his coffee by the window while watching the world wake up. Usually, there wasn't much to see. Mr. Donnelly walking his old basset hound, a delivery truck passing through town, wind moving through trees. Sometimes, absolutely nothing happened for 20 full minutes. Walter considered these excellent mornings. On Tuesdays, he visited Ruth's diner. Not because Tuesday was special. He simply liked the rhythm of it. The same booth, the same pancakes, the same waitress named Janice who had called him Hun for 19 consecutive years, despite never once smiling while saying it. "Coffee?" she asked every Tuesday. Walter nodded every Tuesday. And every Tuesday she filled his cup halfway, wandered off, then returned 10 minutes later to fill the rest. Neither of them ever acknowledged this strange system. It was just simply how things were done. One Tuesday morning, Walter unfolded the local newspaper. The Belmere Gazette was only 6 pages long, and somehow still contained almost no news. He read the headlines carefully. Mild wind expected Thursday. Library receives new stool. High school parking lot line repainted. Walter nodded approvingly. "Big week," he murmured. Janice snorted softly. That counted as laughter for her. Outside, rain clouds drifted lazily across the sky. Walter liked rain. Rain gave people permission to slow down. You could not rush rain. The world became softer during storms. Cars quieter, voices lower, even thoughts seem slower somehow. After breakfast, Walter wandered home with no particular urgency. He passed the barber shop, where Earl Jenkins sat outside in a folding chair, despite having no customers. "Morning, Walter." "Morning, Earl. How's life?" Walter considered this carefully. "Pretty regular." Earl nodded, as though this was excellent news. Because in Belmere, it was. Back home, Walter settled into his porch swing with a blanket over his knees. Rain began gently tapping the roof. Somewhere nearby, wind chimes clinked lazily together. Walter closed his eyes. Not sleeping, just resting them. There was an important difference, at least according to Walter. The trouble with modern life, he often thought, was that people had forgotten how to rest without turning it into a project. People scheduled relaxation, tracked sleep scores, listened to podcasts about mindfulness while simultaneously answering emails. Walter once saw a man jogging while looking stressed. That had seemed deeply confusing. Now the rain thickened. Cars hissed softly along wet roads. The porch swing creaked back and forth. Walter breathed deeply. And for a while, absolutely nothing happened. It was wonderful. Around noon, his niece Sierra stopped by unexpectedly. Sierra was 31 years old and permanently in a hurry. She moved through life like someone trying to catch a train that didn't even exist. Phone always buzzing. Coffee always half finished. Mind always somewhere else. She burst through the front gate, carrying 2 grocery bags and the energy of a small thunderstorm. "Uncle Walter, your voicemail is full again." Walter opened one eye. "That's where messages go." "You're impossible." "So I've heard." Sierra stepped onto the porch and immediately sighed. Why is it always so calm here? Walter thought about this. "We don't argue with time much." Sierra blinked. "That doesn't mean anything." "Probably not." She sat beside him. The swing creaked softly beneath them. For a moment, Neither spoke. Rain fell steadily beyond the porch roof. The trees swayed gently. A distant dog barked once, and then apparently reconsidered. Sierra leaned back. You ever feel like you should be doing more? Walter scratched his chin thoughtfully. I tried that once. And? Very tiring. She laughed despite herself. Sierra loved her uncle, though she didn't entirely understand him. To her, Walter seemed like a man who accidentally escaped the modern world sometime around 1994 and simply never returned. No social media, no streaming services, no smart devices. His television had knobs, actual knobs. And somehow he appeared calmer than everyone else she knew, which for her was irritating. How do you not get bored? She asked. Walter looked out at the rain. Oh, I get bored all the time. That sounds awful. Not really. Boredom's where your brain finally stretches its legs. Sierra frowned slightly. Walter continued. People avoid silence now. Soon as things get quiet, they grab their phones. But quiet's important. He pointed toward the yard. See that? A tree? Mm-hmm. What about it? Walter shrugged. It's just being a tree. Not trying to become a better tree. Not building a personal brand. Not starting a podcast. How fitting is this, by the way? Sierra laughed again. You're making fun of me. Only a little. Rain drummed softly overhead. The afternoon slipped by without announcement. At some point, Walter made soup. At another point, Sierra fell asleep on the porch swing for nearly 40 minutes. When she woke up, embarrassed, Walter handed her a blanket without saying a word. You could have woken me. Walter shrugged. You look busy. By evening, the storm had passed. The town gleamed softly beneath the damp streetlights. Belmere always looked nicest after rain. The roads quiet. The air cool. The whole world smelling faintly of wet earth and pine trees. Walter walked toward the gas station, for no real reason other than the evening felt pleasant. Inside, Old Mr. Pritchard sat behind the counter, reading a fishing magazine upside down. "Evening, Walter." "Evening. Need anything?" Walter glanced around. Not particularly, but it seemed rude to come all that way for nothing. So he bought a peppermint. Outside, the crickets hummed softly in the dark. Walter sat on the curb beside the gas station and unwrapped the peppermint carefully. The town remained wonderfully uneventful. No sirens, no shouting, no urgency. Just warm night air and the sound of distant television sets flickering behind windows. Walter thought there was something sacred about ordinary evenings. People overlooked them too easily. Everyone waited for big moments, big successes, big adventures, big breakthroughs. Meanwhile, life quietly happened during tiny things. Soup simmering, rain falling, porch swings creaking, a peppermint on a summer night. A whole lot of nothing. Maybe that was enough. Across town, a train horn sounded softly in the distance. Walter liked trains. Not enough to ride them. Just enough to hear them from far away. There was comfort in knowing something else was moving while you remained still. Eventually, Walter wandered home beneath lazy yellow streetlights. The porch boards groaned beneath his feet as he settled once more into the swing. The night air wrapped around him like cool water. Somewhere nearby, an owl called into the darkness. Walter breathed deeply. His father used to say, "If you learn how to sit quietly, you'll know more than most people." Walter had not understood that as a boy. Back then, he thought wisdom looked dramatic, like mountaintops and old monks and lightning storms. But now, he suspected wisdom might simply be paying attention. The world was always speaking softly. Wind through trees, floorboards creaking, coffee steaming. People sighing when they thought nobody noticed. Most folks were just too loud to hear any of it. Walter rocked slowly back and forth. The swing squeaked rhythmically beneath him. Tomorrow would very likely be similar to today, and Walter was perfectly content with that. Tomorrow, he would wake at 6:12. He would make coffee too slowly. He would stare out that window. Maybe he'd sweep the porch. Maybe not. Perhaps he'd visit Ruth's. Perhaps he would sit quietly for an hour thinking about absolutely nothing at all. There were worse ways to spend a life. Far worse. The night deepened. Windows around town darkened one by one. Belmere settled into sleep. Walter remained on the porch a while longer, listening to the soft hum of crickets and distant wind moving through trees. The world, for once, expected nothing from him. No performance, no urgency, no proving himself. Just breathing, just existing. Just another quiet evening in a town famous for absolutely nothing. And somehow, in that gentle silence, everything felt complete.